Welcome each and all to this webinar series, Compassionate and Restoration, one small group at a time. Our theme today is emotional intelligence, where we'll be connecting body and mind to be able to nurture ourselves for greater peace and compassion in our lives. I am the Reverend Dr. Laura Kim Joyner. I am the Right Relations Consultant for the UU Metro New York District, as well as a certified trainer in nonviolent communication. Welcome. Let us begin today with these words. The church says the body is a sin, and science says the body is a machine. Advertising says the body is a business, and the body says, I am a fiesta. We are to celebrate, and we are here to nurture our bodies and our minds, which we can do by checking in with one another, sharing how it is with our body, mind, and spirit. Now, since this is a webinar on emotional intelligence, which means we understand our feelings and communicate them, I invite you to share at least one feeling and one need word that is behind that feeling during your check-in. There's a guide that came with this webinar that's printed on this website here, and there's also a list of feeling and needs words. So feel free to refer to those. And so why don't you just put this webinar on pause right now? I hope you're with a group of people, and if not, if you're by yourself, put it on pause anyway and just check into your body how it is that you are. And then come back to me when you're done. I'll be here. Well, welcome back. I hope your check-in was wonderful and you had a good chance to see what's going on with each other. And then you might be going, well, why are we here? Well, we're here to build community, but in particular, this webinar addresses something that has come up for me in all the times I've been consulting with congregations. People say we want more materials. We want materials where we can learn and teach ourselves, because we can't always bring in a trainer, and yet we don't feel that we have the experience to be doing this work on our own. So this is an experiment to see if we can do learning and build community and teach yourselves, because the wisdom is deep within your body and in your experience. This can be offered at your congregation, and you could be a leader for this. You can also do it at home or any other organization for that matter. And it's all an experiment to see if we can make materials that will work for people. So thanks for participating. Now, what this is being built upon, several UU congregations, as a matter of fact, just organizations as a whole, do small groups where people come together and they share life's deep questions and meaning that is there for them. And in the small group ministry, it builds community for deeper relationships and intimacy. So there's a lot of materials out there where you can find out about this. And within the Unitarian Universalist context, our groups come together and they offer a covenant for each other, for we are a covenantal faith. And here's just an example of one of these that's out there. So as you're doing this conversation, perhaps you also will again want to put on pause here and say, well, what kind of covenant will we work under today? Using I statements, sharing, deep listening, refraining from interrupting, etc. And so that's what we mean by small group covenants. And what do we mean by compassionate communication and restorative practices, the theme of this webinar? Well, at a very deep level, what it means is, how do I, as an individual, want to be in relationship with the rest of life? How can I live up to the covenants that we live? How can I change my behavior for the Unitarian Universalist first principles? How can I change? It's not a rule about how to change others or fix them. It's how we can use it as a spiritual guide to change ourselves and help be part of the community that we want to build. And all of this, compassionate communication and restorative practices, are based on honesty and empathy, which is a way that we feel will eventually meet everyone's needs. And so we actually end up fixing the whole society and the whole community by doing this inner work around us. That is the dream for why we are here together today. Another foundation about this work of compassionate communication is that each individual, we are connected to others. How are we connected to them? Well, in the very air we breathe, you exchange molecules. What was once mine is now yours. What was a giraffes or a tree or a dinosaur, or the tears of a dinosaur or Jesus, all that now is part of us. We are all the ashes of dead stars. And so we're all connected in this world in so many ways, in atoms and molecules and feelings and experiences. And we're all connected in this beautiful whole called life. And all life has a need to live. So we need to make choices about how all of us can live the very best possible. And what we can do, this inner work that I spoke about in the previous slide, was to see that we're connected to a beautiful whole. And so we see ourselves as beautiful, and we hold up a mirror for the others to see that as well. And part of this work is knowing that if we're all connected to each other, we're connected in beauty as well as harm. There's some really tough stuff that goes on out there. And so it's not about turning away or being nice or not accepting reality for what it is, but it's being able to see it. So we're not like the giraffe hiding underneath the dirt, but we're looking at the reflection to see that we are both prey and predator, that we are both beautiful and we are part of the harm cycle. And we're going to pay attention to that so we can have greater choices to live out of that. And you may be wondering, what's with all the pictures of the giraffe or the jackal? These are two metaphors that are used in nonviolent communication. The giraffe symbolizes big heart and seeing and listening, because giraffes have one of the largest hearts of all land animals. They see from way up, and they're very quiet. They don't talk in the audio range that humans can hear. And the jackal's a wonderful predator, just a wonderful animal, but it's known and characterized by its yapping. And so that's our inner voice, our yipping, yapping, inner judgment voice that does not see the world as beautiful and part of us. So this work that we're doing, and this is a fairly big concept, but I hope you'll catch me and ride with me on this or email me. We'll have a greater conversation. Is this work to see that the beauty within is connected to the beauty of all others is a first principle practice. Our first principle is the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and I choose to use of all beings. And so, yeah, we cognitively know that, we read that, we go check, I agree. But our bodies remember a different truth, what the world taught us, that we're not all beautiful and worthy and connected. And so we have to do a practice that integrates our body and our mind and our experiences and our culture to overcome what we've been taught. And so when times get tough, our immediate response is one of compassion and connection, and not of judgment and distancing. And that's why I call this a first principle spiritual practice. And I'm bringing this out of the tradition of nonviolent communication or compassionate communication. It's not the only way or the right way. It's just one of the many ways to rewire our brains, to keep the heart open, to keep engaged, and to have deeper satisfaction in life. It's a mindfulness practice, in other words. So today's emotional intelligence, here's one definition of that. It's the ability to identify, assess, and control the emotions of others and of groups. It is just tracking our emotions and being open and curious about them, about what motivates us and motivates others to do what they do. It is to ask the question, what am I feeling and what am I needing? This is a practice, as I said in the first principle practice, that it is not to change others, it's about changing ourselves. But then we're caught in the dichotomy. Well, doesn't the first principle say, I'm already perfect? Aren't I already beautiful? Why do I always have to be changing myself? Well, it's a paradox, isn't it? We are beautiful and we are perfect, but there's an ongoing development, a blossoming of the kind of perfection. And so that may be what is behind this when saying we want to change ourselves, and at the same time, we're cool just as we are. So in emotional intelligence, here's one of the first things to consider. Emotions aren't just part of the mind or the brain or part of the body, or there's actually even a difference between mind and body emotions. It's really all the cells are communicating with one another. And here's an example of how that works. We have something called the vagal nerve in our body that connects up to our brain up here. And it innervates the hearts and the lungs and the stomachs and the intestines. And what they're finding out that actually many of these locations and our thorax, our abdomen, they are thinking, they are processing thoughts. We feel things there and react out of things there. So our mind is not just in the brain, it's throughout our body. So if you've ever had the sense that your heart hurts, it does. It's thinking, it's processing emotions, or your stomach is flipping, or your lungs are tight and not opening. It's processing and motivating our behaviors out of what's going on. And that's why we want to connect with our bodies. This is body intelligence is the same thing as emotional intelligence. And here's just a picture of various thermal scans where people are feeling different emotions. And you can see how they feel them throughout their body. Let's look at love there on the bottom row. Look how it just lights up almost the entire body. One of the more complex, intense emotions, as well as happiness there. We can really see that. And look at depression. There's almost no thermal energy there. And let's see, here's another one. Oh, anger. Anger is a lot up here, a lot up here. And so that's where our energy is. So this is just a way of showing you that our emotions are felt throughout the rest of our body. And if we want emotional intelligence, we need to be tracking what's going on in our bodies. But why do we want emotional intelligence? What's the good of it? Well, there's many reasons why. One is that it helps nurture relationships. And how does it do that? Well, by claiming what's going on inside of us, our feelings and our needs, it helps us know that we're a beautiful individual, but at the same time not taking it away from anyone else. Sneezing, there's a body reaction there. So it helps us be very self-aware and taking care of ourselves because we're knowing what we're feeling and what we're needing, so we can be amongst difference, among cultural difference, among people who are different than from us. By tracking our emotional intelligence, it gives us more reserves to change and be open to other dialogue. And know that this work is very slow. It's a lifetime work, and it does work. We can all move a little bit. And so it's really a mindfulness practice. By being more aware of what's going on with us, it gives us greater choice on how to be with others. So what do we mean by emotions? Well, there's an awful lot that could be said about this. But let's just use these words or all the various ways to talk about emotions. They're affect, feelings, emotions, body state, and mood. There's so many different ones here. Affect is one of the 9 facial expressions that is subconscious, that we're doing immediately upon sensing something or experiencing something or being stimulated by something. So here are these people running from a bear. Look at their facial expressions. What do you see? We maybe see some fear. We might see a little bit of anger as well as irritation. And the one there on my far left, maybe a little bit of joy, having some fun there. So we see that on their faces. Feelings is what our mind is processing with our thoughts, trying to understand what it is we're feeling. It's more thought-centered. And so if after these people quit running, we might ask them what they feel. And they all just had a similar body experience. But one might say, I feel really afraid. The other one say, I feel jazzed and really excited. That was kind of fun. And so it comes through their own personal story and experience. And then emotions are actually what our body is feeling. What is going on? These are the basic emotion words like glad, sad, afraid, mad. And so if we were to ask people after they quit running, maybe an hour later going, what do you think's going on? Or if we were to do a thermal scan, what emotions might we be able to see? And we might still see fear. We might feel relief and relaxation to be through that. We might feel an emotion of happiness to have experienced that and to have lived. Body state is more an overall physiological sense. So this is where hunger and thirst would come in, arousal, anxiety. It's a generalized sense of what our body is doing, but we often call these feelings as well. And then mood is a sustained body reaction. So if we were to ask these people the next day, what is your body state? What do you think is going on for you? They might say, well, Well, I'm just exhausted. I'm just really, after all that adrenaline. And so their body state is low. And another one who might happen to be a bear biologist might say, oh, I'm still just really engaged and excited and very alert. So that's body state. And the moods could be everything from sadness and depression to a general sense of well-being. And so those are moods. Now, I've just spent a lot of time explaining these words, but here's the deal. It's beyond words. We just try to describe what our body is doing. So I offer you these words and these distinctions so you can check in more with your body. And so I would ask you, and again, you can put this on pause so you can have this conversation with your group. And if you're by yourself, think about it or journal it. How would you describe your body state now? Alert, hungry, thirsty. And if there are other people in the room, what affects can you recognize? Or did you recognize earlier today or this week? In other words, what facial expressions did you see? Or can you see in the room now? And then also just checking in with yourself, what are you feeling? Can you distinguish between any feelings and emotions you might have? And I know it's really hard to tell the difference, but a feeling might be going, I feel disappointed. I feel bored. I'm not sure this webinar is for me, right? And then the emotion might actually be, I don't know, maybe sadness, maybe a little bit of irritation. So these are fine tuning, but the more we can use words and the more we can share our understanding of emotions with others, the higher our emotional intelligence rises than that of other people. So one way to check in with your emotional intelligence with your body is to do something called a body scan. And the quicker and the more trained we are at this, the better. Is just to maybe start from the feet up or the head down and just say, what's going on? How's my stomach, my shoulders, my head, my feet? All the different feeling, thinking parts of my body. What's going on? What sensations am I perceiving? What are my affects, my feelings, my emotions, my body state, and my mood? So here's something I'd like to offer for you. If you are connected to the internet and you can get on YouTube, click in this URL. It's a 10-minute body scan with music, and it guides you through feet to your head to be able to do a body scan. I've been told, and I experienced it as very relaxing. And it also, by slowing down this much, we learn things about our bodies, what they were trying to tell us that we may not know otherwise. So I'm going to go ahead and hit pause, go ahead and find this video on YouTube. If you can't connect to YouTube, just set a timer and just do it yourself. Guide yourself through all parts of your body and check in with what you felt and experienced. And I'll see you at the other end where we have some reflection questions on this as well. So welcome back from the body scan where you went from the tips of your toes up into the top of your head. What did you feel and where did you feel it? How was the scan for you? Was it helpful, pleasurable, irritating? Did you experience any changes in your body state or feelings or your awareness of them during the scan? Were you more aware or less aware? And then in general, what kinds of body states, emotions, or moods do you experience in your day, in your week? What do you avoid? What do you foster? And then before we go further into the webinar, how might emotional or body intelligence support you and nurture you in your relationships to yourself and others, and the network of connections that exist in our biotic communities? How might this work for you? So put it on pause and have this time to think about this and share this with one another. Alrighty. So a primary emotion in emotional intelligence and within body intelligence is empathy. And there are a ton of definitions out there of empathy, of the emotion empathy. But in short, the way I'm defining it, it's about feelings and needs. And so empathy is just being open to the feelings and needs in yourself and others, just being open to them, observing them, being curious about them, guessing them, because we don't always know what's going on in ourselves and others, understanding them, and then accepting them without judgment. Oh, I was really embarrassed yesterday. Oh, I was really angry, or I've been sad. Accepting them without judgment. And so when we're able to empathize, we have greater compassion for ourselves and for others. And compassion for ourselves. Why is that important? Why is self-empathy important? Because I really feel that if we don't have spaciousness for understanding, connecting to the beauty within, it's really hard for us to connect to the beauty in others. We can't see it and we won't have spaciousness for them. So if you don't practice emotional intelligence and self-empathy for yourself, do it for the world. What's good for you is good for the world. So what is the definition of self-empathy? It's not neediness or narcissism. It's nothing about that. Again, we're defining empathy as being open to the feelings and needs going on in oneself. And that's what we mean by self-empathy. Why is it that we're behaving in certain ways? Our feelings and emotions are asking us to interact and move in certain ways away from harm and towards satisfaction. And so what's going on with that? That's what I mean by self-empathy. So why self-empathy? Why is that good? Studies have shown that we have better relationships, we're more effective in our work, we have improved thinking, better self-management and leadership, less distress, better stress management, less depression, better health, and overall improved well-being. This is through emotional intelligence, which is another way of saying self-empathy, being aware and accepting of our emotions. And it's not only good for us, as I said earlier, it's good for the whole world. Because as we have increased self-confidence, we are more willing to be honest and speak our minds, because we're an individual, we care for ourselves, and we can share that in a peaceful way. And it gives us the resources to fight for what's important and greater resilience to face the challenges in our own lives and the lives of the world. So we do want to take care of ourselves, because it is the same thing of taking care of all others. So if you want to soar in life, you must first learn to fly, or first love yourself. Now, this is not just a kind of poofy pink thing of love or Valentine's Day. This is work. Love is work. Because what we're doing when we're loving, we're really trying to check in with self-empathy. What are our feelings and what are our needs? And I keep saying the needs words. Well, here's just an idea. And here I'm calling it universal needs, but you can also just say common human needs. And we all have them, and it's what we have to survive and to flourish. And maybe right now I have a greater need for safety, and right now you have a greater one for self-actualization, but they are common throughout the human experience. And it's what we just need for the good life. We all are needy. These are all needs that without we would not have as good a life. And so here is an example of how do we know what's needs versus something else. So what are our needs here going on with Homer Simpson and his family going out for a ride in the car? What's going on here? Well, they're very similar to values. What do they value? Well, maybe Homer in this instance is really value a risk-taking, maybe a little fast there. What are the desires? These may not be so common, but they may have various kinds of desires. Somebody has wind in the face, the other is to feel happiness. We have a desire for that. Motivations? For some of them, perhaps it's to be with family. And needs, the basic common human experience, well, fun and connection is probably strongly going on in them. So what we're trying to do is say this is the common human experience for needs. The car is not the need. The car is the strategy to meet the need of fun and connection. There we go. It's the car ride. So reason why I'm going on about feelings and needs, because that's key to emotional awareness and self-empathy. So here's a preemptive self-empathy. Here's a tool you can take with you for the day. is choose one need that seems very important to you right now. It's either being met, or you're spending a lot of energy to meet it, or it's not being met. And you, again, look at that list of needs that I sent you. So perhaps your need right now would be for some fun. Let's say you've been working a lot, and so it's for fun. Now, what feelings go with imagining this need not being met? Let's say you're not getting your need for fun or stimulation met. What goes with that? Well, maybe a body state of heaviness, maybe some sadness and disappointment. And then imagine that feeling of fun being met. Get up and move around and actually move as if you're having fun. And then what feelings go with that? Happiness, joy? Who knows what could go with that? And then as you check in with imagining how you feel with that need being met and not being met, what goes on different in your body? And this is practicing self-empathy. You're making the connections between all your body and mind and emotion to say, this is what my body does when the need's not being met, and what my body does when the need is being met. Ah, that's what's going on. I'm paying attention to myself and I matter. So I call it preemptive self-empathy. And this is just a really quick interview. We have further another webinar on emotional intelligence, and actually we could spend weeks working on this, and there are plenty of books on this, but this was just a beginning to get you going. It's probably plenty enough for an hour and a half in your small group for conversation and to learning. And at this time in your small group gathering, you probably want to talk about next steps. And I mean next steps as far as business. When are you going to meet again? At whose house? Anything that you need to do or refine in your procedures. It also means, what will you take with you based on your sharing today? What is it that may intrigue you to change or to think about in the coming week? Again, you can put this on pause as you think about this. And now, before we go, we spend some time checking out, how is it that we leave today? Gratitudes and celebrations are so very important for our shared life. So on your checkout, as you can, throw in a lot of these. What mornings or needs were not met? This too is a time to share that, to offer empathy for others and to receive it. And then finally, how did you do with your covenant? If you made some guidelines of aspirations about how you wanted to be with one another, how did that go? It's a time to check in with one another and see how our actions contributed to the flourishing of others. So again, put this on pause while you all talk about this. And welcome back. I know from my part that my gratitude is, I couldn't see you. This is purely recorded. I've done this one live, but I imagine you watching it. And I have the gratitude of being less alone in the world and with company and with the chance to share this work and to be a stronger community of love and solidarity. And so I leave feeling very pleased. And we leave finally with these closing words. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. These words by Helen Keller. And so we'll see you during the next webinar. And thank you for being a part of this.